The first gulp from the glass of the natural sciences will turn you into an atheist, but at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you. In the 20th century, the linguistic school of philosophy was in vogue, which confidently asserted that we could solve every major philosophical problem through a closer analysis of language. And these problems were indeed not of metaphysical reality, but rather the syntax of our questioning. The idea was that we could use language logic to understand what various philosophical statements were precisely saying. The critical insight of linguistic philosophy is that the universe consists of facts, not things. When language and philosophy gripped the question, it became the matter between being and non-being, running from the pre-Socratics through Plato and Aristotle, the Thomistic scholastics, and then the German idealists of Kant, Hegel, and Schelling. Until Nietzsche declared the will to power, it seemed that Western philosophy could not rescue being from not being, the good from the inescapable darkness, the will to power being a will to nothingness, and this craving for nothingness is the death drive of the 20th century. Out of this dark cul-de-sac of a failed thought horizon, the failure of the love of wisdom of the West, springs a model of reality, an absolute yet tangible system of reality out of the fertile science of the late 20th century. The cognitive theoretic model of the universe, a highly original theory of everything authored by Chris Langan, which definitively explains the relationship between language, philosophy, and reality. In his 2002 paper, The Cognitive Theoretic Model of the Universe, a New Kind of Reality Theory, Chris Langan says the CTMU clarifies the issue of whether reality is a linguistic predicate or the objective content of such a predicate by asserting that it is both. Thus, where the reality predicate is analytically or syntactically self-contained, the reality is self-contained. We can express this as follows. On the level of cognitive perceptual syntax, reality equals reality theory. We can describe reality as a language that talks to itself, about itself, for its purposes, a self-configuring, self-processing language identical to its universe on the syntactic level. Chris Langan continues, SCSPL objects, self-configuring, self-processing language, contain space and time in as real a sense as that in which space-time contains the object, resulting in a partial identification of space, time, and matter. SCSPL is more than a reflexive programming language endowed with a capacity for computational self-execution. It is a proto-computational entity capable of telerecursion and thus of generating its own informational and syntactic structure and dynamics. The CTMU concept of language is fundamental rather than an emergent property of reality, of existence, bears heavily on both reality and reality theory. Noam Chomsky's view of the origin of language is that humans acquire language by unconsciously storing information in the brain, which we can later use for many types of written and oral communication. Chris Langan elaborates in his 1993 paper on the Chomsky puzzle concerning the origin of language. Think of language as the silvering of a convex spherical mirror, your mind, suspended within a concave spherical mirror, global reality. What he's saying here is that each is a reflection of the other. The individual thoughts, ideas, associations, and analogies in our minds out of which emerge our systems of language and communications are microcosms of the mental and linguistic aspects of the universe, which have their own powers of association and analogy so powerful in general that it is impossible to circumscribe from our limited human perspective. Langan continues, the two exchange continuous mutual reflections. Our languages and very existence evolves through the continuous recursion between syntax and state, which instantiates a teleology over time, that there are human beings in the image of the reality identity operator who can participate in its self-simulation and provide meaningful feedback. Meaning, being predicated on linguistic relationships is the provenance of linguistic, i.e. sentient creatures. The best way to understand the SCSPL is a language that talks to itself for its own purposes through and then takes on physical and mental properties through its instantiation in the real universe. It creates the reality it describes. Human cognitive development is expressed by Langan. He continues that the inner sphere of the mind, initially a naked surface, so there's this blank slate evolutionarily, grows and accumulates its silvering epitaxially via reflective feedback or growth and complexification, adaptive evolution. As it does, it resolves the fine structure of the outer sphere of reality in its image ever more faithfully. Finally, the reflections emerge. Self knowledge and objective knowledge become indistinguishable. We are microcosms of the universe, of the reality language. And so, as is happening already, mentation comes to be understood in terms of physics, and physics in terms of mentation. So there's this recursion between the physical and mental sides of reality in terms of how we can actually theorize about these various disciplines. And as it is, i.e., as it is in the CTMU, that's how the CTMU is structured. And so the CTMU metaformal system is the intrinsic language of the universe, and each of the individual languages like English, French, or Mandarin are relands of the CTMU meta language, which is how reality describes itself and how we can render anything intelligible in the first place. So, given this situation, we can describe reality as a metalinguistic meta-object. To illustrate this, consider the problem I've termed Langen's regress, explained in his 2004 paper, Cheating the Millennium, the Mounting Explanatory Debts of Scientific Naturalism. Chris Langen says model theory distinguishes theories from their universe and considers the intervening semantic and interpretive mappings, calling a theory an object language and its universe of discourse an object universe. It combines them in a meta-object domain consisting of the correspondences among their respective components and systems of components. It calls the theory or language in which this meta-object domain is analyzed a meta-language. In like manner, the relationship between the meta-language and the meta-object domain, so this is one level abstracted, can be analyzed in a higher level meta-language, and so on. Because we can extend this situation recursively, level by level, and meta-language by meta-language, so that we can conflate languages and their universes to an arbitrary degree, the infinite regress of that reality can, with unlimited precision, be characterized as, quote, a metalinguistic meta-object consisting of that is both the meta language. It's a self-instantiating theory. It's both the meta language and the meta object domain. So it's reality equals reality theory, you'll remember. And so the end of the regress is, yes, it's a self-explanatory theory that doubles as its instantiation in the objective world of space-time, precisely what is needed to connect the abstract and concrete aspects of reality, and thus reunite the mental, subjective, spiritual, and linguistic side of reality, and the physical, objective, tangible, and material side of reality as two sides of the same coin, two parts of the same monic substance of which everything is composed. Telesis. The fundamental units of reality can't be just linguistic or just physical, but metalinguistic operators that can double as both. Syntactic operators which transform the global syntax of the universe to represent physical objects and relations locally. So we can understand the seemingly extraordinary claims of the CTMU in this light. Reality is a language that talks to itself, about itself, for its purposes. Check. Reality serves as its theory, universe, and model. Reality's theory is the abstract or theoretic properties of reality. So its object, the universe, is the concrete instantiation of the SCSPL, i.e. the universe which we know and love. So that's the objective part of reality. And reality's model is the cognitive theoretic model of the universe, which describes the intervening mappings needed for reality's continued existence and evolution. Because the CTMU builds itself from tautological first principles, each logically equivalent to reality consists of reality. It is called super tautological. You cannot break its logic without denying the very propositions of true and false. Thus, the CTMU is called absolute truth, truth denoting inclusion in reality. It is always valid, regardless of parameters or context, and its logic distributes over all of reality as the basis for intelligibility. Reality is a closed identity operator with nothing external to it, meaning its instantiation, in which it refines and extends its identity using observer participants in the universe, allows us to characterize reality with unlimited precision as a self-simulation through the intrinsic language by which reality exists and evolves. In religious terms, the CTMU is called the Logos, which means the word in ancient Greek. It is most famous in John 1:1, the beginning of the Gospel of John, which declares, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God, and the Word became flesh." The Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among men. Logos, or word in this context, can only refer to the metalinguistic identity of reality through which God, who is the ultimate reality and global operator descriptor of the reality self-simulation, can enter into a loving relationship with each of his images. The image of the infinite is necessarily personal and conscious, just as our experience of reality is personal and through consciousness. As John Wheeler said, the universe gives birth to consciousness, and consciousness gives meaning to the universe. As Carl Jung said, as far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. Let the light shine forth in the darkness. May the peace of our Father in heaven be upon you. Like and subscribe. Peace.